is being recorded.
Good evening, good morning, and welcome to the 11th episode of VizConnect. We are just 1 month away to the Tableau conference, and I'm excited about it. So today's session is important as we will learn today from Dilyana the importance of the most important thing when we are designing a dashboard, and that is which color should I use when I'm designing a Viz. And the most other important thing we'll talk about today will be Tableau 2019.3 version, in which Muthu will talk about what are the new features we have over there. So without further ado, let me introduce you to our first speaker. Dilyana is a business intelligence consultant with a focus on data visualization. She has been working with Tableau for different customers for almost 4 years. Her passion for data visualization, she discovered through amazing work on Tableau Public. She is also a co-host of Tableau User Group and a local chapter leader with for social good in Berlin. Currently, she is maternity leave and enjoys her time with her little daughter. In her free time, she runs a blog page she will talk about where she writes blogs about Tableau and data visualization. And the interesting fun fact about her is that she really likes chocolates, especially Kinder Surprise. She eats chocolate every single day. If she don't, she get a bad mood. Over to you, Dilyana.
Hi, Suga. Thank you for a great invitation. I hope you can hear me good.
I can hear you good. You can go ahead. Yeah.
Perfect. So thank you again for a great introduction, and thank you for having me. You introduced me greatly. I cannot add something. So before we begin, I would like to say something to organization matters. So guys, this presentation, what I showing you now, you will find after my talk on Tableau Public, on my profile of Tableau Public, and I will also write a blog according to this presentation. So just follow me on LinkedIn or Twitter. You can find me as a Dilyana Bossens or Viz Pilgrim. Today, I'm going to speak about the color in data visualization. And the first part of this presentation will be a bit theoretical, but at the end, we will look at some examples. So in this presentation, I will answer such questions like, why color is tricky? What are the consequences of misapplication of colors? Which definitions you should know working with colors, and I will also share my approach for choosing the colors. Let's get it started. Robert Kosara, he is a senior research scientist at Tableau Software. He said once, colors are perhaps the visual property that people most often misuse in visualization without being aware of it. As I heard this, I thought why color is a tough topic, and I began my research about this topic. So the color is difficult because you don't learn about the usage of colors at school or later. You don't learn as it needed for data visualization. You need to understand how people perceive colors, how use them for data visualization effectively, and what is the approach by selecting colors. Thus, the knowledge about the color you should either acquire on yourself or study graphic design or similar. Next reason is, with a color you can express emotions. I found in the web one great study which explains with which colors, which emotions and feelings you can express. And here on the screenshot, you can see this network structures. Emphasizes which colors are highly connected with and which are outliers. With which colors you can express positive or negative emotion, etc. So for more details, just check out this link. Yeah. So the point is that the color nodes reflect different emotions. The last reason is that in different cultures, color has different meanings. In China, for example, red color stays for happiness, so it is something positive. And in Western countries, red stays for danger, something negative. The other example is white color. The white color symbolized happiness for Native American, and in China it stays for death, and so on. So check out this color wheel. It is a very famous one in order to get more information to this point. And as a consequence of misapplication of color, you just run a risk to create an illusion if you use color wrong. I mean to use wrong colors for foreground and background. So I'll speak about this point later in my talk. So just keep in mind that you really need to be aware of this as a consequences of your color choices. What basically you should know about the colors. So before we start working with colors, you should first know if you create a work for a print or computer display. This is important as you will work with different color models. For a computer display, you will work with RGB or hex color model. If you create a work for a print, you should use SMYK model. What that means? First of all, if you open color selector in Tableau, you will see this window. This window contains around about 16.7 million of different colors. Here in this corner, you see these three models. RGB stands for red, green, and blue. So this model is one of the most widely used color representation method in computer scientists or computer graphics. This model is extremely common for TV or video display, video games, digital cameras, and other types of light-based display devices. So mixed these three primary colors at different intensity levels produced millions of different colors. The good alternative for RGB is a hex. You can see it here, HTML. Hex stands for hexadecimal. And usually designers or developers use hex colors in web design. Hex color expressed as a 6-digit combination of numbers and letters defined by its mix of red, green, and blue. And a hex color code is shorted for its RGB values with a little conversion. Here we can see the range of hex color code. We're beginning with 6 times 0 stays for black, and we end with a 6 times F for white. SMYK model. SMYK stands for cyan, magenta, yellow, black. The funny things, I don't know why the black is abbreviation of why the car is abbreviation for black, but never mind. And another interesting thing about this model is that actually, if you mix all these three colors, cyan, magenta, yellow, you will never get this black color, and you will never find this black color in this model. So it is a bit irritated, but yeah, just keep this in mind. So SMYK is a standard in printing industry, and SMY converts most like colors range, while K gives it's the ability to create darker, deep colors. This model has a wider range of color, though is limited compared to RGB color profile. Last but not least, HSL model, you should use it in general, or you use it in general. It is a general understanding about hue, saturation, and lightness or values, like here in Tableau. So hue stays for the true color without any shades, tints, or tones. It is like here on this example. The next example is saturation here. And saturation, it is intensity of hue. It refers to the intensity of color. And saturation expresses one color in different width from light to dark. So this does have a scale from intense poor color through increased tones to the no color state of gray. The last one is lightness, but it is obvious that lightness shows the contrast of one color from light to dark. I think this was enough theoretical part. So now you have a good understanding of these basic definitions. And I would suggest that we just have a look at an approach for selecting a color palette. So, how to choose the color? You ask these questions. This question when you have already created the chart. The classification of data types will help you to make a color choice. Here on this screenshot, you see all the data types we have. I'm not gonna go into details of every data types, but if you feel that you need more information about this, just visit this link. So we have nominal, ordinal, discrete, and continuous data. And if you defined it with which data types you work with, you can choose the right color model. So, for example, if we have nominal data, nominal mean, for example, about the Superstore dataset in Tableau, we have one column with categories, and this column has different values like accessories, art, chairs, etc. So nominal mean that you work with strings. There are some values you cannot do some mathematical operation. And for this data type, you should use a categorical color palette as you want to show the differences between different categories. This is the example for this. So one color stays for one value. However, be careful if you have a lot of values. For example, in this column categories, I think we have 20 unique values, and it is a lot. And if we just apply one color for each value, it will be very noisy. The visualization will be very noisy. And Andy Kirk, he is an expert in data visualization. He suggests two approaches to avoid this problem. Firstly, consider offering interactive filters to modify what categories are displayed in a visualization, thus potentially reducing the impact of so many being available. Secondly, think about transforming your data by excluding or combining categories into reduced number aggregate groupings. Excellent advice from Andy Kirk, and just keep this in mind. Ordinal data types. Ordinal means we have categories like rare, medium, well done steak, and this is actually nominal data, but we have some hierarchy in this data. So, and to show the differences between all categories, you can using this quantitative palette. Quantitative palette, it means that we have one color, in this case purple, and we begin with a light one and end with a dark one. So, the second step. Just pay attention to your context when choosing colors. Usually your context will give you hints for the colors. For example, if you have data about Olympic medals, which are usually gold, silver, bronze, your color choice should be yellow, gray, and brown or similar. you have data about forest or woods, you should choose green or brown as a color or similar tonalities. If you if you visualize data about water, usually use a lot of blue or turquoise as a color. So it is like this general association with the colors, and it will help your audience to understand the context easier. So yeah, just keep an eye on your context. Editorial silence. Find what you want to tell with your visualization about what information you want to push to the background and what information to the foreground. Usually the information what not really relevant we push on the background, and the information what is important we push to the foreground. How to do this? I found a great example for this on Tableau Public. Here you see only one screenshot, only one part of this data store, because this data store is huge. And I highly recommend you to go on Tableau Public and check it on yourself. This is an excellent work of Klaus Schulte and Ludovic Tavernier. They created this at the beginning of the year. A great data story, a great analysis, and an excellent example of using the colors. So they begin with this picture and with the title, but on this picture I see this Boris Becker, he's a tennis player from Germany, and he is a bit orange. And also other hints I see here in introduction. I see here Boris Becker, it is also orange. So as a viewer, I learn that orange stays for Boris Becker, and I don't need any color palette. Further, to explore this story, and I see that the authors drawn the audience attentions to one character with a single color, so orange. They used color sparingly and highlighted information effectively. Information is represented by gray. And by the way, gray helps create depth. Elements colored in grayscale sit quietly at the back of the view and helping to provide some kind of background context that yeah, enables the more emphasizes colors to stand in the foreground. Another good thing in this work is that they used color consistently. Sorry, I just click on something and I have a bad internet. So used the color consistently, and those they keep the audience's attentions, and it is just easy to read. Fourth step, so you have enough information about your visualization. So it's time to find your color palette. How to do this? Here, I'd like to share with you some resources, which always helps me. For example, Tableau Magic. It is a good source. For example, here I can upload one picture. Palette. This is my picture, and Tableau Magic generate for me this color palette. I can also set the number of colors I would like to have. And another good thing that I have here exactly this HTML code, what I need for my Tableau repository. So I just copy this code and paste in my Tableau repository, and I have these colors. So very easy, a great source. Another thing is, for example, this website, HTML color codes. I really like this one because you can find a lot of information. You have all these 3 color models here at at the upper side of the picture, and a lot of theory, so you can really learn here a lot, and I like it. You can also create your own color palette and exporting this. Yeah, just to test as many color palettes as possible until you find this one for your visualization. It's all about testing, and testing, actually. So would like to share with you my last example for a great color usage. It was created by Marion. It is about migration. It was her work for Iron Viz 2019 this year. It's also a huge work, but it is so beautiful. It is so elegant, and I really like it. I tried to make it smaller in order you can see the whole screen. Internet is a bit slowly today. Yeah, now it's good. So no, no, it's too small. Nevertheless, so here the author used 11 colors, and it is actually a lot, but it's a good choice to represent this data. The visualization doesn't look overwhelming. It looks very elegant, and I would say there is some kind of effortless harmony here between the color choices, extending across the entire design. I really like this branches, labels, titles, legend, background, and this visualization shows that you must use the overall balance of and suitability of your collective color choices, and not just see this an isolated selection. And this white background, I really like this choice of the white background, because it gives me as a viewer to perceive these different colors very effectively. The fifth step is a squint test. Squint test, it is actually a must for me. What does it mean? It means that just squint your eyes for a moment, and then open it again and go through your work. And what should you see is actually the highlighting in your work. And it is a great step for testing yourself if you highlighted the things correctly, if your graph looks overwhelming with colors or not, and it is a great test. So just to use it. So it is very useful one. Yeah, now we are actually at the end of our presentation. I summarized here some considerations. So some tips from myself, developing your personal catalog of favorite color palette. On this way you can save your time if you create some visualization. Be more sensitive about colorblind viewers. Try to avoid red or green colors. And here you see some alternative what could be good for yeah, red or green scenarios. And if you create a work for a print, just run the print test of a draft of your work, and don't wait for the first print when you have finished your work. Last but not least, I would like to quote my presentation with this sentence by Andy Kirk. He said, "If everything in visualization is shouting, nothing is heard. If everything is in the foreground, nothing stands out. If everything is large, nothing is dominant. And yeah, just think about this by choosing the color. So color is very important, very powerful tool you have as a data visualizer. But the chart type is, and also typefaces and also background are also important. And if you combine all these things good on the good way, so you will make your work outstanding. So this is the end of my presentation. I'm really thank you for your attention, and back to Sagar.
Perfect. Thanks a lot, Dilyana. I think people will now understand how fun colors are to work with and how important it is to have a proper color in our dashboard. So let's move ahead and now I would like to introduce our second speaker, and he will talk to us today about what's new in Tableau 2019.3. Let me first introduce him. So his name is Muthu. So Muthu is a data enthusiast with 18 years of industry experience working with cloud and on-premise technologies in architecture, implementation specialist, and developer capacity. And he is fortunate and proud to be a part of Dataviz family of Tableau and has been heavily involved in customer consulting in India with respect to proof of concept, server and embedded technologies. And the fun fact with him is that he has been lucky to meet interesting personality during flight journey most of the time. The recent one was with the Australian cricket ex-captain Steve Smith, managed to pick his brains on being the number one batsman and his views on surpassing Kohli, the Indian captain in India. Over to you, Muthu. You can share your screen. Perfect. We can see your screen.
All right. Thanks, Sagar, for that introduction, and thanks, Dilyana, for that colorful presentation, I should say. Thank you, everyone, for taking your time out and being a part of this VizConnect session today. We really appreciate it from Tableau. So as Sagar mentioned, I work in pre-sales division of Tableau and technical team in Tableau India. And we shall be going through the 2019.3 features for the next 10 or 15 minutes or so. So what I'll be doing is I'll be covering the basic features with set of slides, and I will also be explaining you a couple of features on the screen, which would allow us to kind of trigger some of the curiousness in terms of understanding these aspects and trying it out on your own, right? So that's how we will go about in this session. And I have basically divided the entire features into broad categories, which I formulated as agenda for our presentation today. So I've divided this into the data part, the IT and governance aspect, visual analytics, web and mobile, and Tableau prep. So while we'll be covering the basic features that have come up in 19.3, this is by no means an extensive feature research session. With that, what we recommend is you take this as a learning. You can go through quite a lot of release notes that are available in Tableau. There is a huge enrichment of features that have come on board in 19.3. We would urge you to go ahead and start exploring on your own too. So from a data perspective, we heard the community, we heard a lot of data enthusiasts, the data scientists around the world, and most of them have voiced their kind of wish in terms of having a proper curation strategy. So by curation strategy, what we mean is proper data structure that can help the administrators, the quality warnings that can help the developers from not using certain fields which they're not supposed to, if the field is going to be deprecated in future database releases, etc. So with that in mind, what we have come up with is a very extensive data catalog from Tableau. It's basically pillared by 4 different aspects: the external assets, the data details, lineage, and quality alerts. I'll be going through this in detail in the subsequent slides as well as in the screen, where I'll be explaining to you where you can go ahead and create your own tags, mark your descriptions, set up external table metadata structures, and how do you basically integrate with external data sources, etc. So all of them are for data curation and data lineage purpose. And apart from this, there's quite a good quality alerts mechanism that can feed to your developers in terms of having them restrict their development activities to the available fields and not let them use the fields that are supposed to be deprecated in the future. And other two features that we would basically recommend you to go through as part of 19.3 is encryption at rest. This is one of the most sought after feature by a lot of developers, where they want to have data encryption at rest for hyperfiles, basically the extract files, as a part of their security policies in their organization. So that's the reason why we have incorporated encryption at rest technology with various options that would allow us to enforce the encryption, right? And the next one will be the cross database joins. As a part of 19.3, as a part of the data catalog improvements and the way we see the data, we have also added a mechanism where you can see an improvised cross database join. So what we mean by this is, instead of bringing the data onto the Tableau platform and having it as a hyper notation, you can basically transfer your dataset onto the live database system as long as you have the access at runtime, and let your joins run there in the database, right? So instead of having every time enforcing you to bring the data onto Tableau, you may have a file with like 10 keys or 10 dimensions and measures, but you will have say 10,000 rows in your table. So it wouldn't make sense for us to connect to database, bring the data onto the Tableau platform and do the join. Rather than that, we'll send the data onto your live connection, let the query run with the joins, and then get the result back into Tableau. So that's what this cross database join does in terms of the improvements that we have planned for 19.3. So now moving on quickly on to the IT and governance part of it. Apart from data, like I said, there are quite a lot of features that we have built as a part of the IT and governance, basically the server management add-on pack, as we like to call it. So this includes resource monitoring, the content migration. These are two critical aspects. So this add-on package comes up with certain features such as AWS, key management system, RDS-based external repository for PostgreSQL. So these basically help us to monitor the resources, segregating subscription versus the refresh task of a backgrounder, for example, content migration improvements if you're moving your workbooks across various servers, moving users across various platforms, sites, etc. So some of you would have used tools such as Tab Migrate to do that before. Tab Migrate can still be used for those actions, but we have also expanded our capabilities to do this kind of content migration, especially the workbook and site migration as a part of this. And advantage of this is like you will have a very linear and well-defined user interface, which will help you to have better control over what you migrate as a part of transformations that you do, and when you migrate as a part of automation, right? So these are two critical aspects that we have brought in as a part of this Tableau server management tool. Other than that, we do have resource monitoring that helps you to kind of find out the long running queries, understand why the query is taking such a long time and what sort of views are being used, etc. And this is a very, very important feature if you're an admin, if you want to have a periodic measure to verify the data and verify the long running views and probably tune it by means of reducing the granularity, or rather increasing the aggregation, and extracting the data instead of live connection, stuff like that. And the next one, like I said, it's content migration tool. I've just pasted the deployment UI for us to quickly go through just how do you plan your migration, how do you mitigate the risk as part of your migration, and how do you automate this migration of workbooks and other contents across various Tableau servers and Tableau platforms, right? And the next one, very important one, is Amazon RDS. The reason for this being considered very important is a lot of us would have worked with the big data databases such as Impala, which has the MPP, the massively parallel processing setup. And what Tableau does with Amazon AWS RDS is it basically does the security. It increases security, the productivity of the overall scheme of things, and it also kind of brings in the MPP capabilities to an extent with the PostgreSQL. So that's what this does, and we are piggybacking, I would say, on the RDS capabilities to to the PostgreSQL, so that the queries can run faster, and it also increases the availability of the database, right? And moving on to the visual analytics, I'll basically go through the explained data in the future slides in the subsequent presentations. I'll show you the screen where explained data is a much sought after and useful feature from an analytical standpoint, and we'll go through that in the demo site that I'm going to show it to you. And of course, for embed Ask data, we do have kind of a short code snippet. All of us would have used the code snippet in terms of embedding the visualization in our own local portals. Similar to that, we have a mechanism where we can embed the Ask data feature into our local portal. So it's a very key feature where you don't have to basically have a customer or your employees navigating to your Tableau portal to use Ask data or to leverage Ask data capabilities, but rather you have it in your site. The user can directly ask the questions from your portal, and they can start asking more and more questions on the resulting visualization feature. They'll not be able to save it, obviously, but they'll be able to ask a lot of questions on the resulting viz. Right? And finally, before we jump onto the demo, the web and mobile feature, there are quite a lot of advancements that have been made in terms of web and mobile activities. The PDF renderings, for example, how do you want your subscription to render the values? Is it in the form of image in PDF or only PDF or image, etc.? And a lot of content types have also been added in terms of how do you share your projects, your workbooks, data sources, and also your prep flows across various mobile applications as well as your web editing feature. And this one I reckon is the most important one, much sought after feature where someone wants to download the set of sheets from a presentation and they want to create a PPT of it rather than downloading the entire set of workbooks or dashboard, for example. So this gives that categorization where you could download the selected sheets or select the sheets that you want to download. And lastly, the web editing improvements. So explorers are very key part in any company in terms of how they see the data, how they visualize the data. So they do have an ability now to publish the embedded data sources rather than just visualizing by using the embedded data source. So they could go ahead and publish a source for other explorers to leverage in case if they come across a viz which has an embedded data source, rather than requesting the creator or an IT team to do that. Right? So that's the advantage that we have brought in as a part of the web editing improvements. And Tableau Prep, of course, a lot of improvements have been made in Tableau Prep. I'll just briefly denote a couple of them before we hop onto the demo. One thing is on the server capabilities, where Tableau server is also added as a feature where we can build the prep based on, where we can consume the data from Tableau server and start building our prep flows. The Tableau Prep Conductor that has come into the market with the data management add-on. So that's a scheduling mechanism which you can leverage to automate your prep flows and also automate the output that is resulting out of the prep flow. And we also have a good R and Python integration. This was available in a very minimal fashion in the previous releases, but what we have done is improved the features that we have brought in for R and Python in terms of having a log-based mechanism, finding out which code is being used by the data scientists who are using R and Python integration for prep and what sort of activities they're doing, etc. So basically it enables logging and tracking the user who's running the code, and it's very helpful for data scientists to know which workflows are being used and how the data is curated and things like that, right? So those are some of the aspects that I wanted to touch upon before I show you a couple of screens, one with the data curation capability, which is data catalog, another one with the explained data feature that we discussed about. These by no means, like I said, are the end of the entire feature set. Other than this, there are a lot of features. Just to name a few, there is a good improved connections to TabPy. There's a good KMS integration with AWS, workload management aspects, which would specifically allow you to demarcate which tasks are being run on which backgrounder node. You would want specific backgrounder to take care of only subscription, other backgrounder node to take care of extractions and things like that. So it gives you a better control. There's an extensive support for Debian 9.0. There are a lot of Ask data improvements in terms of filtering, spatial calculations, which will allow you to convert your distance in foot to kilometers and find out the nearest parks, nearest locations, etc. A lot of parameter action improvements if you're working with say a box and whisker plot, and you want to do an interquartile range-based manipulations and changes. So these kind of actions help you in that. There are a huge set of activities that are being carried out as a part of the big data Google BigQuery connector also, apart from prep. So those are some things that we would recommend you to go through the 19.3 release notes and try out on your own in terms of the activities or the features that you can leverage to build your visualization effectively. With that, I'll just show you a couple of screens just to explain to you what data curation or data catalog we spoke about and how does it look like. So let me just quickly share this. All right. So now what I did is I opened the demo site. You could access it based on your server or your Tableau online site, etc. So inside the demo site, you will see an external assets link. This is basically a data management add-on. If you're already having a server, you would have to just add this data management license to your server, and you would be able to see these external assets as a part of the data management catalog. And I just want to quickly show you the one of the data catalog lineage that I was talking about. So this is the data catalog, right? So I'm showing you the list of tables that we have, the lineage that you can see in terms of where these fields are, where this specific tables are being used, how many data sources, workbook sheets, etc. But you see over here, this is a quality warning. So as a data curator or data administrator, I have written a note saying that this table will be undergoing maintenance on this date. There's going to be a new field being added. There's going to be a change in the existing field dimension or the field length or type, etc., etc. So all these can be added as part of the warning that I can set for the table level. And then when an explorer logs in, when explorer starts to create the data source or create the visualization based on the data source, he or she can see that specific warning as a part of the corresponding metadata whenever they use the field, right? So if you see over here, I click on order date, I'll be able to update the description, which would help us in turn in ask data and explain data capabilities, but I'll also be able to see where the specific field is being used and in what sort of visualizations are being built on this field, the entire lineage, right? So that is something that I can get as a part of this data curation or the data catalog capabilities. And that's pretty important, because as a curator, I would want to set up certain warnings, certain errors for my user to be aware, certain precautions that the user will have to take in the future. So that's where this entire data catalog helps in terms of maintaining the data. The second thing that I wanted to showcase is on the explain data. So if I were to go ahead and do an exploration, and let me just pick up one. Let me see if I have any visualizations. I'll just pick up one and then show it to you. So I'll go ahead and click on explain data. I'll go to Superstore World and click on, say, workbooks. Okay, let me pick this exec workbook comprehensive, and I would want to see some views from this. Let me pick this customer view. And imagine that I am an explorer. I wanted to just explore more on this specific data, but at the same time, I would want to get back to my management with certain findings that I'm making on this data set. As a part of that, what happens is I'll be able to go ahead and do this update where I can click on the specific visualization. I can click on this explain data, and it's going to render me the list of features or the options that I can basically see. So what it did is, based on my selection, it basically went ahead, it did the data exploration activity, the explain data part, and it basically gave me a list of activities, right? List of findings that it could make on the data that I've basically asked from it. So it runs a Bayesian algorithm calculation, and it basically gives me a view on the specific data point that I've selected. So we all know that Tableau is a conversational system, right? It's a conversation analytical engine. So we basically ask questions to Tableau. We basically ask pinpoint certain specific areas where we want more information, and Tableau does the calculation, gets back to us with the results. So that's the same thing that happens here too. I specifically denoted certain point in the visualization where I want more information that I want to present to my management. And Tableau ran the algorithms, the Bayesian algorithms, and it presented me with this specific list of marks. Not just that, it also gave me a brief explanation of what this single value is all about. It's higher than expected. These are the possible explanations of this specific reason, right? These are the reasons due to which there is a slightly higher mark being denoted as a part of the visualization. And it also presents me with some distributions that I can go ahead and explore. It doesn't end by just explaining to me what this point is all about. It also builds certain visualizations that I can go ahead and explore further, and I can derive some results out of it, right? So that's what this explain data does at a high level. There's a lot of calculations being done in the backend based on statistical methods, based on the data patterns, based on the data that we have at our vicinity for exploration, and finally it gives us a result, right? So these are some of the features in 19.3. Like I said, this is just to kind of foster your learning and kind of encourage you to go ahead and look at the features, explore it on your own. And this is by no means the entire set of features of 19.3. So we would be more than happy to get your thoughts on the discussion forums where you could post your ideas and share knowledge with us. But this is going to help you to kickstart at least. So this ends my presentation. So over to you, Sagar.
Thanks a lot, Muthu, and thanks a lot for updating us with all the new cool features which Tableau has launched. I think I'm more excited for Tableau catalog and explain data. I'm looking forward how exactly a customer create use cases around it. So now the exciting part comes in which you can ask the speakers your questions, what doubts you have, and things like that. So you can use the chat window, you can use the Q&A window. Just go ahead, ask your question, and they are happy to help you over here. So I think my first question to Dilyana will be, I think I want to ask, so we have a tradition, we ask all our speakers over here, what are the 3 tips you will give people who are new to Tableau?
Who are new to Tableau, right?
Yeah.
Well, depends on what people would like to achieve, but usually people would like to learn Tableau very effectively. And well, my way was that I just try a lot of things out on myself, and Tableau community, it is a big help because you can challenge yourself every day. Just participate in different Tableau community projects like Makeover Monday, Workout Wednesday, Viz for Social Good, Iron Viz, etc. And if you participate and you create regularly in different dashboards, you learn a lot. And I think Twitter account is also a must if you would like to be active in Tableau community, because you follow the people, you just see what the people created and what amazing works they have already did. And it was also some kind of way how you can learn and important things just try out. Maybe at the beginning, not every work works smoothly, but you can always ask question in Tableau community, on Twitter, etc. This would be my advice.
Perfect, right. And I think we have a question from Muthu over here. So any write-back options available directly to Excel or Notepad files, which then can be comments or for reporting?
No, write back feature, if I understand correctly. So writing something back from Tableau to any other external source in the form of files are not available. The only thing that we have unveiled now is the cross database join, where as long as the user has permission, they can push the data from Tableau onto the live data connection to do the joins, cross database joins. So there's nothing other than this being released in 19.3, especially no write back into files. You could have a write back in the form of the prep flow. Basically, after cleaning up the data, there is an option to write the output data either in the form of hyper or in the form of CSV. but not in terms of data updates, if that's what you're asking, in terms of updating the rows, etc.
Okay.
Okay, there are a
Like to
couple
ask
of
you a
other
question. Any
questions
questions for Dilyana?
that I
Yeah.
saw
Yeah. Please go ahead,
uh,
Muthu.
in the chat. One thing is on, is there any option to troubleshoot similar to resource monitoring for Tableau desktop? There is a you must be knowing there is a performance monitoring tool that we can leverage. That is what we have been using for monitoring our performance, monitoring the VizQL server performance, the query performance, etc. So that continues to exist. You enable the performance, you run your visualization, and that's again at the server level, so not directly at the desktop level. That's one thing which continues to be there, and that is what we have in 19.32. And nothing specific on the Tableau desktop in terms of analyzing the query, other than if you're using an external query, obviously you could run the query in the database and figure out, but nothing directly on the desktop. And the next question is on the explain data feature insights to be embedded into a tooltip. There is an embedded feature option which we can leverage in the form of the embedded code. We could write a small iScript in terms of embedding the feature into the explain data, but explain data is basically meant for explorers who explore the data. That's the reason why you see that there is no explain data available when you publish the Viz onto the portal, be it online or server right now. So you edit it and then you see the explain data feature. So we recommend that to be used in a format where you can present things to your management in terms of understanding why there is an outlier, why there is a data change from the usual pattern and things like that. Yes, it can be done in terms of embedding, but not directly, I would say, in the form of a tooltip, but you could basically embed that as a part of a small iframe window that opens up when you do an explain data feature in your portal.
And I have one question for Dilyana. Any specific recommendations on colors when building business dashboards?
On business dashboards, my big help was the book, Big Book of Dashboards, which was written by Jeffrey Sheffer, and other
Andy Cole.
authors. Yeah,
Andy.
really. Yeah, thanks.
Correct. Yeah, that's right.
It is a great sources. It is amazing knowledge what you can learn from this book, and there are a lot of good examples with Tableau, which you can also find online. Another thing is Tableau Public. It is a great resources if you look for any dashboards for different topics and also business dashboards. There are some authors who created amazing views. I think if you just look up at the favorite list on my Tableau Public profile, I favorized some books of business dashboards, and the good thing that you can download these dashboards and try out with your data, or just look up some things for inspiration.
Perfect. Muthu, there is a question for you. Can you throw some light on GraphQL and external asset? How can we ingest data, metadata from other enterprise metadata repository?
Okay, I've not done the ingestion based on GraphQL, but what I know is that there is an available endpoint, the API-based endpoint for GraphQL. So basically, similar to the server REST API that we have, there is a GraphQL-based endpoint that we can leverage for Tableau Catalog, and that kind of increases our, the ability to do data scripting and the quality warnings, etc. So that's what it does. But I have not personally had any experience working with a customer who has leveraged this GraphQL based ingestion so far from an API standpoint.
Any other questions? Please go ahead. Perfect. I think there are no other questions which we have. So we can close this session. So thanks a lot, Dilyana, and thanks a lot, Muthu. I think it was a great session, and I think it was a great learning for all of us to know the importance of color. And thanks to Muthu also talking to us about what's new in 2019.3. So thank you. Thanks a lot. Have a great week ahead. Bye. Take care.
Thank you, Sagar. You too. Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye, Dilyana. Bye, Muthu. Thank you. Bye.